If you're here watching this, there's a good chance that you've heard of the fabled Camino de Santiago before and want to know more about it. Maybe you're just interested in the logistics, what to expect, where to stay, how much it costs, how to prepare for it, what to eat, what to pack, or maybe you're more interested in the experience of it, what it's actually like to walk 15 miles every day for a month or more, how to meet friends along the way, what sleeping in an albergue is like, is this Camino actually like the movie that I saw about it? Or maybe you're more interested in the spiritual aspect, the quest, the connection to yourself, the chance to have a transformative experience, the chance to truly disconnect from everything else for a little while and make some real change in your life, whether in your mind, on the scale, or perhaps to connect deeper with your faith. Everything you could want to know about the Camino is in here. But first, for those of you that are yelling at your screen right now, what is this Camino thing you speak of? Get to it already! I hear you. I'm super glad you're here so that I get the chance to introduce you to something really amazing. Let's start at the beginning. In short, the Camino de Santiago is a really long walk that people have been doing since the 1100s. But it's so much more than that. Sorry, stopping for a quick history lesson here. You see, way back in the day, people of the Celtic and Iberian tribes used to walk an early Roman trade route across what is now Spain to the Land's End on the Atlantic coast of Galicia. It was written that it was quite a spiritual experience to make it to the end of the world, to the infinite sea. In fact, the Romans called this point right here, Finisterre, which translates to the end of the world. Much later, a legend was spread that the Apostle St. James's remains were brought to Santiago de Compostela after he was martyred by Herod. Santiago is the largest and last town on this extremely historic route. The legend of the Apostle and his remains had officially turned this route from a beautiful walk into a full-blown pilgrimage known today as the Way of St. James, or the Camino de Santiago. Fast forward to the 17th century when, through an odd combination of the Reformation, the Enlightenment, and the multitudes of wars in Europe, the Camino was gradually suppressed. In fact, Louis XIV of France outlawed his subjects from going to Santiago in order to stop trade with Spain entirely. The Camino fell into disfavor and disrepair, but was never fully abandoned. Only hundreds walked the Camino each year during this time. It stayed that way for hundreds of years until, suddenly, against all odds, in the 1980s, the Camino de Santiago sprung back to life. Tens of thousands of pilgrims turned into hundreds of thousands over the next few decades until we reached today.
See what I mean? It's a parade now.
When 300,000 or more pilgrims are supposed to walk the Camino de Santiago just this year.
There's already like 20,000 people out there.
So what caused this ancient pilgrimage, all but abandoned for centuries, to suddenly come back to life? Why now? What about our modern age has made this old and timey ritual of walking all the way across the country to see the remains of a headless saint more relevant now than ever? So, explained at its most basic, the Camino de Santiago is a journey done on foot or bicycle from basically anywhere to Santiago de Compostela.
To be honest, I'm not sure that makes me feel any better.
The most popular route, and the one I would recommend if you do it your first time, is the French way. This is a 500-mile route that begins in Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, goes up and over the Pyrenees, and all the way across Spain until you reach your destination of Santiago. Most people fly into Paris or Barcelona, and then they take a train from there to the starting point at St. John, here.
Oh. What time do they close?
Apparently now.
Oh no.
This is where you meet us. We're Lisa and Josh.
Like, I haven't seen paperwork in a really long time, and I'm really excited to go through it. There's like maps, and they give you an itinerary of suggested itinerary of how you should do the walk and how much elevation gain there is on each day, and they're so prepared.
This was our first day, but the Camino for us really started 6 months ago in Hawaii.
What are you about to go do out there, Lisa?
We're gonna go surfing.
You got a good instructor today?
We'll see. I'm just kidding.
When one of our friends offhandedly mentioned to us his experience walking the Camino de Santiago. And from that day, the idea kept growing in our minds, so we had to call him and learn more.
I mean, I was really like in a big time of transition in my life. And I think a lot of people you meet will be in this time of transition, right? to realize you're not alone in that, and to realize, you know, we're kind of all in it together. There really is a sense of community. I think that was so surprising to me.
You sound like you miss it.
Oh man, I'd love to be there with you guys.
He made it sound almost romantic. Walking through beautiful Spain while meeting amazing people, drinking amazing wine, eating all the food, and coming out the other end a changed and better person. It sounded like exactly the thing that we needed. A quest. We had been looking for a quest for a while. The Camino offered a chance to focus on ourselves. A routine, a way to connect both more to each other and to the things that each of us care about. It offered challenge, new friends, great memories, and a potential to do something that we previously had thought was impossible for us. We were looking for control, consistency to lose 20 pounds, adventure. I mean, basically a transformative experience in just about every single aspect of our lives. The expectations were absolutely unreasonably sky high and unrealistic. We were way off. We just didn't know it yet. Not only that, but we were very almost comically unprepared for the journey that we were about to start. I mean, just look at us.
Oh, this right here is the first of many steps of me becoming my dad.
Our sleep sack, which is made out of polyester and hopefully should protect us from bed bugs. This is a water bottle carrier because we realized although the coat epoxy bags are really cool, they don't have a place for your water bottle. So I'm gonna hang this from there. Jersh's dad hat. Should I try it on? Okay. Do I look like your dad? Another yoga strap because I think we're convinced that it works. That's it. What a great haul.
I can't cut.
You want me to do it? You did it!
Wow.
Feels pretty good already.
Because it has nothing in there.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
This is as ready as I'm gonna be.
So you got your bag, your sunscreen, your bottle of water, your pilgrim's passport. It's time to start this thing.
Day 1. Buen camino.
It's already falling apart. The first day is a bit of a trial by fire.
Punch o'clock. Okay, here it is. How do we look?
Really good.
It's the hardest day of the Camino by far, and looking back on it, I honestly wouldn't have wanted it any other way. It is basically straight uphill for about 10 to 15 kilometers as you go up and over the Pyrenees, and then you have to drop down an elevation all the way back down to our first town. In total, about 26 kilometers. This is the first time I've ever walked across the land border. And especially one that's so far away. Right now we're in France, and then once we get up and over the Pyrenees and start going back down, we're gonna be in Spain. That's pretty cool. We were down there 30 minutes ago. The rain let up for a little bit, but we still got the ponchos on just in case it changes its mind. How's it going?
You know, it's kind of discouraging to see non-stop hill, but we're going.
We are up in the clouds now. Can't see too much. Visibility is maybe 20 meters ahead of us. We are definitely approaching deliriously tired at this point. We are about at kilometer 20, I think. So 5 or 6 more to go. Just everything's really tired.
And of course, in true Josh and Lisa fashion, we haven't really been good at taking breaks. We just keep going. Slow, but we keep going.
Our Camino friend that we've seen about 100 times today. Yay! Where's the video?
Oh, video.
Compared us to a diesel engine. He said we're very slow, but once we get started, we just keep going. I do think that's very much our hiking strategy.
Would Clunk Clunk be proud?
I think so, if it started up.
This is seriously so magical. We're walking this forest with fog, and then you just hear these bells chiming. You see all these horses just wandering by with their little bells on their neck. So beautiful. And I think we found a place for us to sit
finally, and take a break.
Last 1 kilometer. We're so close. I mean, what an absolutely beautiful hike. But we're about done. I think our feet are ready to give out.
We made it!
This is great.
These are really nice. I was not expecting this. Very cool. They gave us these at the front, and I think this is the pillowcase, and I think this is the bed covering, which is very exciting.
Now you'll notice our accommodation here. It's basically a hostel in a church.
Very awake.
These are the albergues, the traditional place to sleep at night for pilgrims. These are exclusively accessible just for the pilgrims, those that are holding the pilgrim's passport. These are by far the cheapest places to stay on the Camino, costing anywhere from totally free to a maximum of maybe 12 euros a night. There's a variety of different places to stay along the way, let me explain.
I'll start with on the lowest end, as in the cheapest of all of them, and those are the pilgrims hostels. And usually they will be big hostels. There'll either be 1 or 2 per city, and they'll just say por peregrinos, which means for pilgrims like us, the people walking the Camino. We've seen prices for these anywhere from 8 euros all the way up to about 20, and some of them for free but with a mandatory donation.
The next kind of accommodations are the hostels that are privately owned. So these are places that can be found on booking.com, even hostelworld.com. Those usually range from about 12 euros to 20 euros, and they even have private rooms.
All of the Peregrino hostels and some of the private run hostels will keep half of their inventory available for people just walking in. You can just walk in, and they do this because for some people on the Camino, that's how they find their accommodation every single night.
I think with COVID and the changes that have happened this year, now it seems like reservations are more of a thing and calling in advance.
And the last type are the privately run hotels right along the Camino. These vary widely in prices, but we've seen private rooms all the way up to 80 to 90 euros. Now, about reserving these places as you're on the walk. This is the steepest learning curve for us of this whole thing.
Okay, so we've just spent the past probably 3 hours calling every possible hotel in all of Pamplona and any of the surrounding area that's even kind of close. Everything is booked out. 100%. We couldn't find a single thing. And I don't know what to think. I don't know if we're using the right tool or the wrong tool or the wrong website or something like that, but everything is booked out. So I don't know exactly what we're supposed to do, because it also looks like the next couple of cities that we were planning on walking to are also entirely booked out. We're feeling a little bit discouraged. This one especially. This right here was our first real test on the Camino. Keep in mind that we did this in 2021, and half of the hotels and hostels were closed for COVID or just forever because they didn't survive the pandemic. The next day was walking to Pamplona, and there was literally nothing available. I don't know, we might just have to walk and see if we can book something on the way. We had no idea what to do. Were we gonna walk 15 plus miles, get there, and find that there was nowhere to sleep? This was only our 3rd day, and we didn't really know how to solve the problem. We needed help.
Okay, started day 3. I'm not even sure that we can go this way. Pretty much every single day on the Camino, we start off and we go, all right, let's go. And then we walk out the door and then we're like, is this the right way? Do we even know where we're going?
And today, for real, we don't know where we're going.
Yeah, not at all. Not at all. So despite spending another 3 hours or so looking to try to find some place to stay in Pamplona tonight, we didn't really succeed. We haven't found anything. We called about 40 places and absolutely nothing has any availability. So it turns out that each of the hostels, at least the ones for pilgrims like us, they allow people to reserve in advance half the rooms, and then the other half of the rooms, you can just kind of show up, and you got to show up right when they open. And then the other half of the rooms you can just take as you walk in.
But we are definitely slow walkers. We're not trying to, sprint this thing. So
Right.
definitely not going to be the first people to arrive.
We'd have to walk 13 miles in about 4 hours with absolutely no stops. It's possible, but real fast. We're not sure exactly what to do, and we're just hoping that we can just get a place to sleep tonight. Oh yeah, and this was our second day in a row of trying to do laundry, hang the laundry to dry, and then have it rain overnight.
It's reserved. We got it. Last night in a flurry, after calling a bunch of places and getting we are full or completo, nothing, no rooms available, sent out a bunch of emails to places that we couldn't get a hold of by phone, and we got a response today. They have a double room for us. We got it. We have a place. Oh, we're so happy.
Good job.
The Camino lives on.
I'd always wondered what a beard tastes like after walking 14 miles in the sun. Let's find out. Oh my god. These patatas bravas, they're the perfect thing after a long hike.
Been arriving at basically the exact wrong time every single day at the end of the Camino. It looks like lunch is only served between like 2 and 4 p.m. everywhere that we go, and we normally show up in the town right around 12. We're hungry, and then we go to a restaurant and they look at us like we're crazy because we're trying to order food, I guess 2 hours before anybody actually eats lunch. But the thing I am loving is the siesta culture, and I think I've been preparing for siesta culture my entire life.
Sí, mi nombre es Lisa.
Ah, sí, sí, ya le hablo.
Gracias.
You see this new stamp? Yay! That one. My legs don't work so good, but we have a room now. Yeah!
I think there's something to be said about under-planning the Camino. There's a certain magic about it. We were forced into planning many days ahead, but from what we learned along the way from people who had done this before, booking ahead was the exception, not the rule like it was this year. We kept hearing over and over from people on the trail the mantra, the Camino provides. And this was certainly true today and just about every single day ahead of us. It can feel great and productive to figure out every day, every hotel you're going to stay at, every little detail of this whole thing before you start. But if you can manage to leave a bit of space, a bit of uncertainty in the trip, you also leave some room for the Camino to surprise you with something amazing. And it usually will.
You'll meet all sorts of interesting characters along the way if you want to. You also don't have to at all. This whole experience could range from one super long tapas, which are called Pinchos in some part along the way, and wine crawl across Spain, all the way to a fully solitary month of just walking and silence. It is whatever you want it to be, and it is up to you to do it the way that you decide. You can be whoever you want to be on the Camino and approach it however you want. The freedom is beautiful. The greeting of the pilgrims from one to another is Buen Camino.
Buen Camino.
You'll hear this 100 times a day, every day, as you go through countless beautiful small villages and shockingly busy large towns. People will pass you, some will chat with you, and there's never any expectation of staying with any particular group or person for any longer than you want to. Everyone is on their own Camino, unless you choose to walk it with someone else. Meeting people along the way is, however, one of the best parts of the experience. Solitude and the room and space to think and process whatever in your life needs processing is, however, the actual best part. Now, if you're anything like us, this is about the time, maybe 50 or so miles into this thing, where you start feeling uncomfortable.
Oh. Nope.
Not necessarily physically uncomfortable, just emotionally and mentally uncomfortable.
I think we're losing it. We are, I don't know, we're struggling today. We're wondering, why are we walking this? What's the purpose? Why are we struggling so hard? Why can't we stay present? And why are we thinking about counting down and how many days left? It's rough when you're in your own thoughts for this long and you've got, I don't know, 400 miles to go to Santiago.
Why do I still think of that one time in high school that I got super embarrassed by Brad when he hit me in the head with a dodgeball in gym class? I still hate Brad to this day. All these thoughts just start invading your mind. Don't worry, this is all totally normal, and as our Camino Sherpa Dan told us, this is where all the juice is.
Everyone keeps saying you can do the Camino your way. I don't know that we've figured out our way yet.
He was right. To make change in your life, you have to feel at a minimum uncomfortable. The more change you want, the further from your current self that you want to get, the more discomfort you're going to feel in that process. The Camino just brings that right to the surface and puts it right in front of your face and asks, how bad do you really want this? Only you can answer that question. I would recommend after you start that you take some time to really think about why you're doing the Camino. You have all day to walk, most of which will be by yourself, some of which will be with other pilgrims, but take some of that alone time and really get to the center of why. It will be different for everyone and you can share it with others or not. Up to you. There's no wrong way to Camino. It's quite literally all about finding your way.
Something that I'm learning the hard way on this route is that it doesn't matter how fast or how slow you go. The first day I was noticing we were kind of the last people to leave and maybe always almost the second to last people arriving to the next town. But we are being reminded constantly by our friends, the other peregrinos here, that it just doesn't matter how fast or how slow you take this Camino. It's all your own way.
Oh, we have a fan! Yes! Yes! I mean, the terrace is cool, but we have a fan.
Oh, it's so nice to be sitting down. I'm in love with this hostel that we're hanging out at. We got a private room for 40 euros. I just got my beer and some gummy worms out of a vending machine, which are a few of my favorite things. And yeah, I am really glad that we are staying an extra night here. This area just feels a lot more our speed than Pamplona is. It's a lot more relaxing, it's a lot quieter, it just feels more us. And I think honestly our bodies are still kind of adapting to this new load that we're putting them under. We're walking a little over a half marathon every single day, and this is our 4th day in a row, and honestly our bodies are just not that used to it yet. So I think we need to give it a little bit of time to rest, and I couldn't think of a better place to do it than here.
On our first real lazy day of the Camino, we realized suddenly that we had a lot less time in Europe than we had originally thought. You see, you only get 90 days out of every 180 throughout most of the EU, and we had spent more than we thought throughout this trip before we started walking. It was theoretically possible for us to make it, but we would end up walking 30 or 40 miles per day or more to make it on time. We could feel the clock ticking again, but didn't know what to do yet. Oh well, for now, let's go get some dinner and let future us solve this problem.
Eating in Spain appears to be a lot harder of a task than we had originally thought. It seems like we're doing everything wrong and we're not really sure how to do it right. We just sat down at a restaurant, the table was open, sat down at the table, and then 4 seconds later the guys shoot us away and some other people who had just gotten there got our table.
They did have drinks in their hands, so it made me think that perhaps they had reservations or they were waiting for that table.
Yeah, I don't know how to tell or who has reservations or who doesn't. We're there at the wrong times, ordering the wrong things. And honestly, we're starting to make waiters upset at us, which means that it's our fault. It means that we have to change, we have to understand a little more. There's just too many assumptions going around. I think we have a lot of research to do.
A lot of learning of Spanish.
Yes. Once again, the last one's out. Like the very, very last one's out. We gotta get better at this. But at least we got a quarter of baguette for breakfast. It's not hard at all.
Goodbye, Puente La Reina. It's so beautiful.
Okay, so I did a bunch more research about how eating works in Spain and why we're having so much trouble and why everything seems a little bit off, and I found some really interesting stuff. So at first is breakfast, and our typical breakfast lines up with what the normal traditional Spanish breakfast is, which is just some bread like a baguette or a croissant and some orange juice and a coffee. After that, between like 10:30 and noon, they'll typically have another snack, which will be some sort of sandwich thing. Then the biggest meal of the day, lunch, and this is usually between about 2 or 4 p.m. And when I say between 2 and 4 p.m., I mean it lasts the entirety of that time. This is one of the things that we're having the hardest time adapting to, is sitting down and just eating lunch and doing nothing else for 2 to 3 hours. Because of the way that restaurants work in the United States, you don't normally take your time eating any meal when you're in a restaurant. That's not the case here. As a result of that, this lunch meal is usually just fully a break from work. Okay, next up at meal number 4 out of 5 is the afternoon snack. This is between about 5:30 and 7, and this is kind of very similar to the early morning snack, except for it's usually some sort of sweet treat or sometimes the same sandwich like what we had earlier. Okay, and then last up for the 5th meal of the day is dinner, and this is usually between, let's say, 8:30 to 9 all the way until midnight. Most restaurants won't even open up here until, say, 7 or 7:30, and a lot of times their kitchens won't open up until 8:30. And contrary to the way that we think about this in the United States, dinner is usually a really, really light meal. But especially during dinner time, this is the meal where you're there, you're sitting down, you're having a couple drinks, and you're hanging out at the restaurant for somewhere between 3 and 4 hours. Now, you might be thinking that this seems kind of odd. It just seems like everything's time shifted, or it's just all off by about an hour or two. And you'd be right.
Apparently, there's a specific reason why the Spanish eat so late, or why the time is shifted a little bit behind. Back in the 1940s, during World War II, the general at the time decided that he wanted Spain to be on the same time zone as Germany. This didn't match with all the other countries that were in their same longitude and latitude. Ever since then, Spain has just always been ahead of the UK in time zones, even though they're in the same exact longitude. As you know from our channel, we constantly talk about our struggle with moving way too fast, and it's often really hard for us to slow down. There's something about the Spanish way that makes me feel I want to work towards that.
So just to be clear, we're far from experts on this subject. This is just what we've learned from doing this for a handful of days and from talking to a couple people from Spain and having them explain it to us. I really think there's something admirable and something for us to strive towards, to actually be able to sit still for long enough to enjoy a 4-hour meal. Kind of inconceivable.
We made sandwiches because all of our train connections are super tight.
Are you surprised?
So I think tonight our challenge for the day is going to be to try to just sit there and very, almost comically slowly enjoy our dinner. Okay, so Eni says he's in a bar before the bridge, close to the place where we spotted the big red tomatoes. I asked him to send me a location.
I remember the big red tomatoes.
Good old big old tomatoes. No big red tomatoes anywhere else here in Spain.
We just got back from the best night hanging out with our new friends on the Camino. We actually hung out for 4 hours, just hanging out, chatting, learning Spanish and English all together. It was a good time. And we got to sit by this most beautiful, beautiful church. Our slowest meal ever. We are feeling pretty exhausted and we have a big day ahead of us tomorrow, but you know the drill. It's 20 kilometers to the next town. rinse and repeat.
Well, that's quite a start to our hike. Blasted out of there with the fire alarm that wasn't actually a fire alarm at 6 in the morning.
Actually, it was 5:30.
5:30. So now it's 6 and we are on the trail.
We wanted to start early anyway, right? Who needs sleep?
Yep.
The next few days are very, very flat, hot, and boring. Oh yeah, did I say what time of year you should do this? The best is spring or fall, April or September. Summer is just too much for most people. We did it in August. That was a big mistake.
It is getting really warm right now. There's no shade. Everyone keeps saying you can do the Camino your way. I don't know that we've figured out our way yet. I think we thought our way was just to walk all 500 miles all the way to Santiago, but what do you do when you're just frickin' bored?
Oh, solid swing. Home run. I don't know why I'm saying in British voice. British people don't watch baseball. On God. Touche. Oh, very nice.
I won.
Aw. Starting the day off in the more Spanish way with just a giant baguette and a croissant. And yeah, we have our longest walk yet today. Today we're going all the way from Los Arcos to Logroño, which is about 28 kilometers, which can't do the math off the top of my head, but seems like it'd be about 18 miles. So yeah, as a result of that, we had to say goodbye to a couple friends. They were heading further down the trail. It's always a sad moment. Never gets easier. Yesterday was truthfully a pretty low day for us. When we started off the day wrong with a fire alarm at 5:30 in the morning, that certainly didn't help. And we just kind of felt really bored all day. Usually if we get bored of a place or something, we just move on, go somewhere else. And with this, there's not something else to do. It is just walk for 6 to 8 hours and then make it to your hotel, maybe grab some dinner and then head to bed. And it's the exact same thing every single day. I don't know, I guess yesterday it just really started getting to us. And I have a feeling that everybody that comes in the Camino kind of goes through the same crucible that we're going through right now, because there's just nothing to do but just walk all day, every day, and that's a very different shift, and that's also one of the reasons why we wanted to do this in the first place.
Yeah.
It's just honestly a little more difficult to adapt to than we thought.
So after wrestling with this quite a bit the last couple of days, we talked about ways that we could change this. We talked to some friends who've done the Camino. We've talked to people who are walking the Camino now, and I think it all comes down to doing what's best for you, which might mean slowing down, which might mean taking breaks, and might mean switching it up. Walking some days, not walking others. A lot of people take buses on this route.
One, the Camino is probably a little bit too long, considering how many other plans that we have in Europe and how long our Schengen visa is. You only get 90 days out of every 180.
I think one of the biggest things, and that's hard for me honestly, is to take any guilt away from that.
And to try to do this thing to anyone else's standards of what like the right way to do it is, just seems like it would be doing it wrong. We're seeing so many shoes just like this one along the way. It seems like this hike, especially with how hard it is where a lot of pair of shoes go to die. I can see why.
At this point, we had to make a decision. Were we going to commit to walking at an insane pace, 30 or 40 miles per day, just to be able to finish the Camino before our visa ran out? We were having a tough time already with the Camino in a lot of ways. Looking back on this moment, we realized that the source of our unhappiness was that we were doing someone else's Camino. We were listening more to the guidebooks, to the hundreds of comments on our YouTube channel telling us all about the right way to do the Camino, some in a more forceful way than others.
The thing that I really just want to escape and hopefully work on for the next few days is changing my mentality. It's no longer about how many miles we walk or where we make it. Do we make it to Santiago by foot or by bus or by bike, or how fast we go?
Had we decided to stick with it at this point, keep doing the Camino the way that the internet and the guidebooks kept telling us to do it, we very likely would have just quit this whole thing in just a few days. That would have been an absolute shame, because as soon as we started doing things our own way, walking the Camino de Santiago changed immediately from being a painful march across Spain into a beautiful, relaxing, amazing, and truly unique experience.
We keep stopping for blackberries. They're so good. We keep saying, okay, let's go. That's enough. And then we find some good ones. Like, here's a good bunch. This is our first real, actual, legit lunch break. We sat down for 2 beers and a potato tortilla, as they call it here. And I'm amazed. This is so nice. This will get us through.
Let's stop here for a moment to talk about religion on the Camino. This is a very common misconception about the Camino, that you have to do it for religious reasons. Well, this is indeed a pilgrimage with direct religious roots. From our experience, there is absolutely no requirement anywhere along the way to be religious or connect with any particular faith. No one is going to stop you at the start and ask you if you believe in Jesus or force you to attend a mass. In fact, when you start, they ask you at the pilgrim's office about why you are doing the Camino. There are a few options. Religion is one of them, but so is health, connection to yourself, tourism, and the ever-giving other option. There's no right or wrong reason to do the Camino. I would say that most people that we met along the Camino were doing it for a multitude of reasons. Almost everyone wanted to meet more people, to lose some weight, to get in better shape, but the thing that united every single person on the Camino was wanting some sort of change in their lives. It doesn't matter if this change is to connect deeper with your faith, like the way you look in the mirror more, get a bit of distance from the problems of your life back at home, process things that happened in your past, taste every single wine across northern Spain, or literally anything else.
Wait, is this actually just a free wine fountain?
Your reasons are your reasons, and there are no wrong answers, and you don't have to tell anyone if you don't want to.
So, I just wanted to quick answer the question that we've been seeing a lot of, and that is, will I get lost when I'm on the Camino? I think it'd be really, really difficult to get lost in this, because literally every 50 to 100 feet, there's either a bright yellow arrow, such as that one right there, or the one behind me here, or
Just right there.
And what we've experienced is that basically every time that we don't know where to go, if we just stop and look around for a second, you'll see that there's a symbol telling you exactly which way to go. So as long as you're following the sage advice of Ace of Base and opening up your eyes and seeing the signs, I think it's honestly pretty difficult to get lost, and I wouldn't worry about it too much.
I saw a sign, it opened up my eyes, I saw the sign, ending without understanding.
So how you feeling over? Pretty good.
There's nothing better than taking the shoes and socks off at the end of the day. Oh my god.
Oh, look at your tan line.
I know, my sock tan. Josh, you can take your socks off. Oh. No. So we were walking around the city and we just had such a great time that I think we're just gonna stay another night. What do you think?
I want more patatas bravas.
Yeah, like the food, the vibe around here just had enough but didn't feel too big. I don't know, it felt really cool, so we're gonna slow down a little bit. We're not in a hurry, and check this place out for one more night.
On the Camino, we've been walking every single day, and by the time we get to town and shower and get something to eat, we only have like an hour left before we have to go to bed and rinse and repeat and do the same thing the next day. Being outside and wandering the streets of Logroño made me realize how much I enjoy just being in a place for a while.
Pinchos crawl!
What?
Pinchos crawl!
We're gonna go to Calle Laval, in case you didn't understand, and we're gonna do a
Pinchos
crawl. Pinchos crawl.
Pincho crawl, Pincho crawl.
Very.
Best I can tell, the thing that you're supposed to do here is get some pinchos, and each place will have its own kind of specialty pincho that only they sell. And then get a very, very economical glass of wine. This is probably like €1. Finish those up and then just move on to the next place down the road.
Here we go.
I think it's amazing.
After going back and forth over the decision of what to do next and spending 2 awesome nights in Logroño, we knew exactly what we needed to do.
And now we're in Madrid. Just to go back up north again.
In the few days after arriving in Sarria, things really started to come together for us.
Learned a new skill, have you? We are in Sarria and kicking off our first day of this second leg of our Camino, and it feels like a completely different Camino. Just look at where we are.
We felt like we had all the energy in the world. Our feet were lighter, the miles just flew by as we enjoyed the beauty of the world around us. We were getting into the rhythm, figuring out how to make it all work. We were looking at things as fun challenges instead of hurdles.
This portion of the Camino is absolutely beautiful. The scenery is completely different from that of Nevada and the Castillo region. It's just so lush and green. It's beautiful.
With all of these changes and with us being much, much happier on the Camino, we still hadn't figured out one super important thing. That we needed to stop more often while we were walking. Up to this point, we would just keep walking all day until we reached the next town, rarely if ever stopping for lunch or having a coffee break along the way. This was a big mistake and we were missing out on so much.
Another nice new thing about there being so many towns is that there's a lot more of these amazing little cafes. Every about 2 miles or so one of these pops up, and it's just absolutely filled with pilgrims all getting sandwiches and Spanish tortilla and coffee, and it makes for a really nice, easy way to break up the day. We're about halfway through our walk right now, so I figured we'd stop. 60 more miles to go. Not so bad. C is for cookie. That's good enough for me.
It's the second place that we've seen along the route from Sarria on where people set up little tables where you can get fruits and cookies and pastries for donation only. It's really sweet. And sweet. Pretty epic way to enter Porto Marín.
Okay, now we're going to select our intensity.
Whoa.
Okay.
Oh, that's cool.
There you go. Okay, just sit back and relax.
You're not gonna try it?
No, this is for you. Your feet hurts. Okay, bye, enjoy.
Thank you, bye.
It's been a while since we've had this, but we decided to go with the menu of the day or the pilgrim's meal. And there's so many options. You get a first plate and a second plate, and each of those plates have like 9 different options. And it comes with bread and wine. We haven't had a meal like this since Roncesvalles.
Good morning.
Good morning. There's already like 20,000 people out there.
Why they gotta do this to us?
Oh, big old decision. Let's go right.
Okay. There's something about today that makes it feel like a pilgrimage. I think it's because there are so many people, so many peregrinos on the walk today. It's kind of nice today. Feels like we're all a part of something larger now. See what I mean? It's a parade now.
So today's our longest day of walking left. It's about 24K today, all the way to Post-camino, and I think maybe, hopefully, we're finally starting to get the rhythm of this whole Camino thing down. I think we're starting to figure it out. Still not sure if this actually does anything, this yoga belt, hip belt replacement strap.
It only took 150 miles. Placebo.
We're quick learners, really. What do we know? Alright, so we're about 7 or 8 miles in, which means we're about 3 hours of walking in, so this we found is the perfect time to take our lunch break. Just right along the path, there's nothing really around you, but still there's about 100 people here. They normally have sandwiches for about $4, and we're also going to get some coffee and tea. All in all, it's a nice rest break, and I think it's absolutely necessary for some of the longer walking days like today where you're walking 15 miles or more. So all this stuff together was €9 or like maybe $11 or so, but I think the most important lesson learned is that if you can ever get the tortilla patatas wherever you are, you definitely should. Because look at the difference between this thing and the sandwich. So this is undoubtedly the hardest part of the day, which is getting back up after sitting down and having a nice lunch and not walking for a little bit. How's it feel?
It's supposed to feel better, but I don't know, it feels kind of, oh yeah. Full water.
And that's the part that we're at right now, because we know we have another 7, 8 miles to go, something like that, and just, it'd be so nice to just sit in the shade at that cafe all day. So basically you can emotionally break up the hike into 3 different experiences.
Emotionally.
The first 5 miles of the hike are liars. Either way, it's lying to you. And it's sort of like the first mile of going for a run. Either it feels like it's way too easy or it feels like it's way too hard. Either way, it's neither of those things. So today, for example, felt super easy, the first 5 miles. Even though it was uphill, we were just kind of chugging along. It felt good. And then the second part of your hike is normally feeling pretty good. You just took a break, but you're starting to feel sluggish because you ate too much food. And then the third part of the hike, the last third of it, is just awful. It's hot, it's sunny, there's no escape from it, and it just feels like it goes on forever.
The Camino is definitely super humbling in many ways. A lot of people asked us before we started and even during the Camino, have you been training? Are you used to walking this much? And I remember thinking, no, but we've been walking 10 miles a day in Italy and in Paris. And we think, oh, we're generally fit people. Not like this. Super humbling in a good way. And also just amazing to know how much your body can adapt in just a few days. But also how your body can break down in just a few days.
And somehow, almost as if magic, the last mile goes by super fast.
And then all of a sudden you start seeing signs that you're like, oh, alas today. Wait, what, are here?
And very soon comes my absolute favorite part of the day. No question. And a cold beer after walking 16 miles in the sun is the greatest beverage on planet Earth. It's just the perfect thing after a 16-mile walk. Then we'll check into the hotel and take the coldest shower we possibly can and pass out for an hour or two.
You forgot to say the best part is taking off the shoes.
Oh, yes, yeah. The glorious feeling of taking off the shoes after walking all day. And then if I'm really lucky/unlucky, Lisa will give me a massage. Morning dance. Off we go. You know, believe it or not, the weather that we got out here where it's overcast, borderline raining/drizzling is the perfect weather. It's the weather that you pray for when you start this walk. So we're starting our walk today from Palestere, and then we're gonna head to Melide. And today is one of the shortest, if not the shortest walking day that we've had for the entirety of the trip. Our walk today is about 15 kilometers. And for most people, today's walk is honestly the longest walk. They'll go about twice as far, even a little further than that.
Because we wanted to slow down and take it easy and honestly just enjoy more of the cities and the towns that are on the Camino, we decided to break what would typically be a full day into 2 days. As we're walking along this last portion of the Camino, we see cafes and restaurants and just random stop areas where you can get a stamp. It's kind of fun to collect more stamps as you go.
So we stopped at this really cool roadside cafe right along the Camino in Casanova, and I think it's just called the Casanova Cafe. Everything here has been absolutely great, and honestly we needed a little bit of breakfast, and we have all the time in the world, so why not stop? Most excitingly, I think I might have finally gotten a breakfast that isn't just a giant baguette with some meat in it. They actually had bacon and eggs, and that makes me very, very happy.
We're under 60 kilometers. There is something about today that just makes me feel really, really happy to walk. I think it's because we just decided we would go at our own pace and we finally figured out our way. We were in Logroño and we walked maybe 28, 29K and we decided to stay an extra night. That was a light bulb moment for us. That was when we realized, oh yeah, we don't have to follow the suggested itinerary. We don't have to do what everyone else does. In a lot of ways, the Camino is just teaching us more life lessons. Go at your own speed, go at your own pace, do things your way. Don't compare yourself to other people. Hi, kitty. The Camino is such an amazing way to see parts of Spain that you probably never would have seen before. You get to see all these villages that you just would never think to go to unless you're walking or biking. Oh, wow. Very nice. This place is definitely one of the nicest places we've stayed at on the Camino. There's a shared living room. We have our own bathroom, which I think this might be the first place in the entire Camino that we haven't had a shared bathroom. It's a luxury for sure. As we're nearing the end of the Camino, we thought we might do something completely different for today's video. We noticed that on the Camino, we become so reliant on checking the apps. We've been checking the weather. We use it, of course, to film. And we also have been using it when we're just bored, listening to podcasts, listening to music. So we decided that today we would just focus on walking. Buen camino.
Airplane mode. Gracias.
Bye. This one says 50 kilometers. Buen camino. It's warm, huh?
Oh my God, Lisa.
What?
Air conditioning. Yes! What do you think?
So I'm playing Ember Spirit for the first time.
So there's this saying on the Camino, and it's that the Camino provides. And I think this is kind of true, but I think the more accurate saying is that the Camino giveth and the Camino taketh away. And when I say it takes, I mean to get to the point where we're at, where we're starting to feel a bit more at peace with this process, you have to sacrifice. And that sacrifice for us was letting go of our fear of boredom, letting go of our fear of FOMO, just finally being able to be here doing this thing and not think about doing something else. And I think the sacrifice is in some ways required for every person that does the Camino, but I also think that it'll be absolutely different for every person that does the Camino. So when I say that the Camino giveth and the Camino taketh away, well, it definitely requires a sacrifice, but I'd say it's worth it.
For me, the Camino has been taking away many things, like my shyness, and in return it gives me cool new friends. The Camino also took me out of my comfort zone and my fear of speaking Spanish, and in return it gives me amazing, delicious, yummy food and cervezas.
I am so happy to see you.
So when you hear things like you have to sacrifice in order to receive, I don't know, these things that you receive in return are well worth the sacrifice, and turns out are not really sacrifices to begin with. You just think that they are. Oh. Okay, something super bizarre but kind of wonderful just happened. We were walking through the town of Pedroso, the town that we're staying in for the evening, and we walked all the way across the town because that's where a pension or accommodations were. We got in front of the door, we rang the doorbell a few times, nobody answered. Rang it again, nobody answered. So finally we gave the number a call. A woman answered in Spanish and I said, "Hola, estamos aquí." And she said, "Oh, okay, vale, we'll be there soon." Maybe 5 to 10 minutes, and then this car pulls up. A woman and a man come out, and they say, basically, in Spanish, "You can stay here, or you can go to another place in the middle of the town." And we thought, what? Huh? You can stay closer to the center of the town. There's more restaurants, there's more food there. Would you like to go? If so, get in the car. And I looked at Josh and I thought, sure, why not? We threw our packs in the back of the trunk. They drove us all the way to the middle of town where we had just walked through, let us out, and walked us up to this room. Turns out this pension has 3 different accommodations across the town, and they said this is the best one. The room is quite beautiful, and she's definitely right. It's close to all the restaurants and all the food. It was just such a funny and weird but also great experience. And I loved that even though neither of us spoke each other's language super well, we made it there and we got to this amazing accommodation.
Man, just one day left. We just sat down for dinner at this amazing terrace. And I think our mindsets, the way we're feeling right now, shows how much of a change we've had about how we feel about the Camino. 14 days ago, had you said you only got one day left, we would have been, wow, celebrating, like, yeah, I can't believe it. Like, yeah, I'm so excited to be done. I'm so tired of walking. But now, honestly, with only one day left, we're both kind of feeling like we're gonna miss it.
This is it, our final day of walking. The day started just like every other day. Waking up early, checking to see if our clothes were dry.
Is any of it dry yet?
Not really.
Finding out they're still wet. Quickly brushing our teeth and splashing our face with water. Slowly putting on our shoes and packs. Grabbing our walking sticks and heading out the door.
Let's go.
As we leave O Pedroso, it becomes clear just how close we are. We're just under 20 kilometers to Santiago. It almost doesn't feel real, and in fact, it definitely doesn't feel real. But as soon as we get on the trail, the routine kicks in. It's automatic by now. We have our usual chunk of bread for breakfast, we fill up our water bottles, we're greeted by the sounds of Buen Camino from everybody we come across. But something about this day feels a little different. There's a certain hop in our step. We're walking much faster, and there are not only many more peregrinos walking, but there are mounted police patrolling the area. It feels just a little bit more intense and official than the previous days. On the one hand, there's a huge sense of urgency to get there quicker. Go straight there. We're so close. We didn't even take breaks this day. Then there's a feeling of anticipation. What is it going to feel like when we arrive in Santiago? And there's also that sense of hesitation. We don't know if we want this to end.
That's Santiago. I think we can actually see it for the first time. Yes.
And just like that, signs of life, excitement. This is Santiago. We're in Santiago. I think it's still a little hard to believe. It just feels like, really? Are we there? We're almost. It's like right there, I think.
I think I'm feeling the exact same way. After walking 200 miles or 320 something kilometers over the past 2 and a bit weeks, it's hard to feel like it's over. We just got used to the rhythm of this thing, and I feel like we just sort of figured out how to make it really enjoyable. So disbelief is the mood right now.
Santiago is a crowd of pilgrims waiting patiently their turn to take a picture in front of what feels like a finish line at a marathon. This big sign welcoming you in. But to our surprise and to our feet's dread, we had to keep walking. A lot. Oh sure, just another hill. The cathedral and where Santiago is still quite far from the outskirts of the town. The crowds of people ebbed and flowed, intermixed with pilgrims, tourists, and locals alike. It felt like we pilgrims were infiltrating a town that has become so used to pilgrims. We appeared kind of to be a nuisance, an annoyance almost, getting in their ways as we're walking in. Or they're so used to it that we just blend into the landscape.
End of the road, baby.
We start to hear the sound of people and music, and we finally reach the cathedral square. This is where we knew we had reached our final stop. We made it.
We made it.
We took some mandatory pictures. We gave high fives, hugs, and kisses all around. Then we both looked at each other, looked around, blankly. The cathedral was surrounded by pilgrims just like us, feeling tired, feeling weary, confused, shocked, and uncertain. What now was the prevailing feeling? It felt a little empty. We made our way to our hotel and received a warm welcome from our host. We got our final stamps and walked up a flight of stairs to our room. We almost forgot our walking sticks, as if they knew their jobs were done. But luckily our host reminded us. He pointed out the collection of palos or walking sticks that have been since left or donated to his albergue. We laughed. We aren't forgetting these ones. We got into our rooms, took off our packs for the final time, took off our shoes and socks one final time, and we were in a daze. How did our final day end so quickly? And now that we're here, what do we do? Was what we were feeling what we were expecting to feel? What should we be feeling? We thought we would feel more celebratory. We were excited to come to Santiago, but it seemed like no one else was excited that we had arrived. Honestly, it made us feel a little bit down and empty. Maybe it was because we were hungry and tired, we hadn't taken any breaks. So, like we always did, we went downstairs, had some delicious beige food and beers from our albergue.
Let's try that.
It's yours.
Cheers to finishing and making it to Santiago, huh?
Cheers to the Camino. It has returned.
We went to go pick up the mochila or the backpack that we had shipped forward.
Picking up our mochila or our backpack and not sure how I feel about it. I don't know if I want those things back.
Gracias.
Hey.
And when we made it back, per protocol, we took a big ol' siesta. When we woke up, it started to downpour. I was feeling really, really glad that we finished our walk when we did. But I also wondered, what does this rain signify, if anything? After the rain stopped, we re-emerged and decided we would walk around again, give the town and our feelings another chance to redeem themselves. But we couldn't quite capture what we were feeling. Disconnected? Why did we walk the Camino again? Was walking the Camino something to celebrate? How do we move on from this? Everything just seemed a little bit off and we had so many questions. The next morning, we decided to check out the pilgrim's office to get our Camino diploma, or the compostela that proves that you walked on an official Camino. We had heard and read many things about this place, mostly that it's similar to your local DMV office. Lines out the door, apathetic staff, disorganization, all of that. We weren't even sure if we wanted our compostelas, to be honest. Out of curiosity, we made our way there. We were pleasantly surprised, honestly. A small queue, some inspection of our stamps and dates, a couple of questions about our routes, and then we received our certificates. Free of charge at that. They asked for our full names and explained that our certificates were to be printed in Latin. My name was no longer Lisa, it was Elizabeth.
To
to all the Sedelos and pilgrims. For the sake of devotion about the threshold of St. James, our Apostle of Spain and protection is coming together, is going to make known that they have made the full trip and the visit.
For those of you who have seen the Martin Sheen movie about the Camino called The Way, no one asked the reason we walked, how the experience was. There was no music. It was all very transactional and official.
Candles and bright candles and light like noon shiner.
We spent the rest of our day in Santiago honestly in a little bit of a rut, eager to move on to the next adventure, but a little bit dissatisfied with the way this one ended. Maybe we had too many expectations of the Camino and of Santiago, the end point, the destination. But maybe it wasn't even about that at all. We had been preparing and thinking about the Camino for over 3 months now, ever since we first heard about it back when we were still living in Hawaii. The Camino was the quest, the journey we knew we wanted and needed from the moment our friend Dan first shared it with us. But as we approached Santiago, it still felt like the quest and journey we wanted and needed. We just didn't know what to expect when we reached the end of it. The next morning we got up and got ready to go to our next destination. I'm kind of excited to have my bag back, but I'm also kind of sad. And I'm also kind of sad to get rid of my decathlon bag. It was a good pack. Just a end of an era, it feels like. Yoga strap I never used. Sleep liners. Are you sure you don't want to keep this?
Definitely sure. Gotta go.
We're gonna go see if we can donate some of the things that we have and also leave our follows or our walking sticks. A little bummed.
I would say that understanding the change that walking the Camino brought into your life is difficult to impossible to do while you are actually walking it. It's sort of like trying to process a death in the family or what it was like during your own wedding day. You're so busy during it figuring out logistics, talking to people, taking care of things that you don't actually take any time while it's happening to really feel any of it. The end of the Camino is a lot like that. You've been so busy walking every day, trying to not get lost, meeting new people, figuring out the restaurant system, booking your next few night stays, being tired over and over again, that maybe, like us, you didn't really process the experience that you went through until the very, very end. And after searching online, we found out that this is perfectly normal and exactly what a place like the Pilgrims House is for. So we're hanging out here at the Pilgrims House, and originally we just came by this place to see if they would take a donation of all the extra stuff that we bought for the Camino, but don't really need any more for the rest of our trip, to see if it would be useful for them or for somebody else who's about to take the same pilgrimage that we did. And honestly, what we found was so much more amazing than just a place for donations. In fact, that's definitely not what this place is even for. I really wish that this was the first place that we went to. It's a place just for pilgrims, just for people like us who've just finished walking this super long thing. You make it into Santiago, and then you're kind of greeted with indifference. You walk in and the first thing that they say is, "Congratulations." Wow, I mean, like, welcome. Wow, what a thing you did. And hearing that for the first time after doing all this just warmed my heart. It feels like it was something that I was kind of waiting for a while. And honestly, once you first get into Santiago, the first thing that you feel is just, what do I do now? Not just because you finished with something, but because you feel like there should be something to wrap up the quest that you were on. Some sort of way to make sense of the whole thing that you just went through. And especially considering the jarring juxtaposition between walking for 10 to 15 miles at a time and not really seeing another human or just only a handful of other humans, to all of a sudden making it into this big, super busy city, and then just starting to feel like you're a small bit into this bigger thing instead of the very introspective inner journey that you've been having for the past couple of weeks to months. That's where the Pilgrims House steps in. They just have this group chat of all the new pilgrims that have come in to help them sort of decompress and talk about their experiences of going on the Camino.
We have to leave for our bus in about half an hour, and I'm really, really sad because it's the place that we didn't know that we even needed.
Let's rewind for a moment. This moment right here.
We're feeling a little bit discouraged. This one especially. So,
Was the moment that we almost threw in the towel and quit the Camino.
not sure what to do.
Looking back at this, the problems that we were facing at that moment seem so unimportant, so small. I'm so glad that we didn't quit. Was the Camino harder than we thought it would be? Hey, why do I have to walk uphill and do this?
It is getting legitimately cold out here.
Absolutely. Physically, we were unprepared for sure, but mentally, we weren't anywhere close to ready for the path laid ahead of us on that first day. I mean, we almost quit. We almost did none of this.
It's so magical. Horses on both sides. They're beautiful. Ginormous.
You'll very likely feel the same way somewhere along the way. If you want to quit, truly that's fine. There's absolutely no shame in that. But I would urge you, with this one thing, with the Camino, to at least take a few moments before you decide to quit and think about what is making it so hard. Maybe your expectations were too high for reality to ever have a chance to catch up. Maybe you're approaching this thing in the wrong way, too fast, never taking buses, not talking to enough people, talking to too many people, being on your phone too much, not being on your phone enough, having too much wine, not having enough wine. Whatever it is, just give it some thought. More than likely, you're just not doing the Camino your way. You're likely doing it someone else's way. Maybe you saw something on Instagram that makes it seem like every day is supposed to be beautiful and easy. Or heard something from a friend where they said that you have to do all of this all at once, or walk 15 plus miles in a day, or even something in this video right here that didn't vibe with the experience that you want to have. Take a step back and do this thing your way. Drop other people's expectations and see if you still want to quit. I'm willing to bet that you won't. If you do decide to do the Camino de Santiago, you'll very likely run into everyone you talk to about it having a very strong opinion about the right way to do it. You'll hear stuff like, you're only a real pilgrim if you walk all the way from St. John, or if you skip any part, you're a fake pilgrim, or if you stay in any hotels, you're not doing it right. Advice on advice on advice, most of it well-meaning, but ultimately unhelpful. I mean, we made videos about every single day of our Camino as we did it, and just look what people said about us and the way that we did it. So I'm here to say once and for all to you that there is no wrong way to do the Camino, as long as it's your way. It doesn't matter why you do it, or for how long, or by which method of transportation, or which path you take. They're all right, as long as it's the way that you decide.
As we left Santiago and the Camino, we felt a bit more at ease, especially after leaving the pilgrim's house. Honestly, the abrupt ending was so jarring that it forced us to stop and wonder what we were missing. If there was ever a better allegory to the idea of it being about the journey, not the destination, it's how the Camino de Santiago ends. But, as we learned, the Camino giveth and it taketh away. It's really impossible to share what you take away from the Camino completely. It taught us not to look outward, rather, always inward. To expect external validation was probably flawed to begin with. And to get there, we had to sacrifice our need for constant entertainment. And what did we get for that sacrifice? A true understanding of what it means to say, it's all about the journey, not the destination.